All right, thank you everybody for coming to the first forum of the day. I was actually giving Mitch some crap when he told me I was in forum 2, and then I was at the bottom of every hour, and I didn't realize that actually the bottom of the hour is the first one of the day. So, so I was a little out of line. So I believe that Anthony and we were paired together last year at the same bat time, same bat channel. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Anthony. Are you muted on my end or your end?
I had muted myself for the cough. Let me start that again.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Life is Too Short for QRP If You Know a Few Tricks. My name is Anthony Luscri, Kilo 8 Zulu Tango. And this is my contact information, k8zt73@gmail. I also have a website at k8zt.com. There's many slides and many links in today's program, so this is the link to the slideshow that I'm showing right now, tiny.cc/QRP tips. I will also have this available at the end of the slideshow, and you can shoot the QR code if you'd like to have access to all the slides. First, a couple quick definitions. What is QRP? Well, it comes from the Q code, QRP. QRP with a question means, shall I decrease my transmit power? Or as a statement, it means, please decrease your transmit power, or I have decreased my power. Typically, QRP refers to 5 watts or less output power from the transmitter on all HF bands. Usually the recognized value for contesting categories and awards is this 5 watts. A small minority of organizations use 10 watts PEP on single sideband, but this is not recognized by most awards contest sponsors as QRP, so I would just stick to 5 watts. QRPP is a name given to even lower power, also called milliwatting, using less than 1 watt of output power. Many QRP operators, when talking to another QRP operator, will send a 72 instead of a 73 after two-way QRP contacts, denoting the reduced power. The opposite of QRP is often referred to as QRO, typically greater than 100 watts. Why did I personally choose QRP? It was accidental. I didn't know any better. I guess I hadn't listened to the advice from other hams. Novices shouldn't start with QRP. Life's too short for QRP. Real amateurs have RF burns, etc., etc. The jokes go on and on. I also read an article in CQ magazine about QRP that sort of piqued my interest. I found out about the QRP ARCI group and their quarterly magazine. And this is an example. Anytime you see this link, you can click on a link like that. It'll take you out to resources. In addition, there's another magazine that's published quarterly called SPRAT, stands for Small Powered Radio Amateur Transmitters. It's from the GQRP Club. I also read a book by Ade Weiss entitled The Joy of QRP. Once I realized what could be done with QRP, I was hooked on it. Why do others choose QRP? Well, there's a wide variety of reasons, but a lot of QRPers are home brewers and like to design and build their own equipment. The construction is usually typically much more simple than some of the QRO materials out there. Other people choose QRP for less RF problems if they live in an area where they're likely to cause interference. But most people do it for the challenge. Just like all these other crazy sports on here, QRP pushes us to further challenge ourselves. There's challenges for awards, contests, and personal goals. Why do I operate QRP is similar to the question, why do I fly fish? There's more efficient ways to get fish than fly fishing. And it so happens that in my younger days, I enjoyed fly fishing before I got into QRP. So you'll see things such as life is too short for QRP or do not consider fly fishing. There's easier ways to catch fish. These are just comments by people that don't really understand what the challenge is about. Now, there's different types of QRP operators, just as there are many other types of different hams. I'm broken it down to 5 categories, and I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. I'm going to focus on the 5th one, but I'll just go through the categories. Some people are minimalist. They want to do something, the most they can do with the simplest equipment. Other people like to build. Some people like to experiment and design. Other people like to operate portable, and QRP has a distinct advantage for portable operations because of the lower power requirements. That means you can get away with smaller batteries and much lighter radios. But the fifth category is called optimized station operators, and that's the category I fall into. And that's what we're going to focus on today. With QRP optimized station operators, QRP power but optimize the rest. The key is operating with low power for the challenge, but using the best antennas as possible, full featured rigs, all the accessories you might need. Power consumption is not really a concern. And contesters and DXers are often the type of group that favors this type of operation. Let's go through some QRP myths. I love the bust myths. I have a few QRP myths here. You must use a QRP only radio. You must use CW only. You can't win contests. You can't use beams or good antennas. You cannot work DX, and you must use QRP all the time. These are all false. Number one, you must use a QRP only radio. Most QRO 100-watt radios can be adjusted for lower power operation. Follow the manufacturer's suggestions, typically adjusting the ALC, turn down the drive, etc. For further precise reductions, you can use something called a step attenuator, and this can actually get you down to very low power levels very accurately. You must use CW only. Although a majority of QRP operators historically used CW, many also use single sideband and especially the new digital modes. Popularity of the weak signal modes such as JT65, FT8, and FT4 have become very popular for QRP operators. You can't win contests. Well, most contests have separate categories for the QRP operators, so you're only competing against other QRP operators. And you notice I do have a trophy here, one of 5 on the wall now for the CQ worldwide, including first place in the world. And here's my scores from 2022. You notice the different categories. I would not have a chance in this category. I would not have a chance in this category, but I was able to win my category in QRP. You can't use beams or other good antennas. You certainly can. Don't confuse low power with poor signals. Unlike high power amps, the gain of antennas benefits you twice, once on transmit and again on receive. You must use QRP all the time. No, you can choose when and where you want to try QRP. A lot of QRO operators enjoy QRP when operating portable with batteries in the field, such as Field Day, SOTA, POTA, etc. You should always append QRP to your call sign. I'm going to talk more about this later, but I'm going to tell you right now, you can choose to do it, but I strongly suggest you do not. Some stations will not even answer you because they assume it's going to be too hard to complete the QSO. But if the station is calling for QRP stations, feel free to apply, even if operating QRP either way. You cannot work DX. Well, maybe you will not be the first to break the POW up, but with patience and good operating practices, you can work plenty of DX. And that's going to be one of the features of a lot of this QRP operation. It's not going to be the first one to break the POW up. Your goal is to break the POW up ultimately. Contest or FT8 are good chances for DX with low power. My QRP operating events, I'm at 315 CW, 305 single sideband, 189 RTTY, 244 FT8, FT4, data 265 total, and all over 328. Got greater than 117,000 QSOs with QRP. Worked all states on 11 bands, 160 to 6 meters. Worked all zones on 3 bands. I got ITU zones 76 out of 77. I'm missing one ITU zone in Siberia that I still need to grab. And here's some examples of band by band. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later is it's much more effective to operate on the higher bands for QRP, but that doesn't mean you can't make contacts on any band. You'll notice here that I have not broken the 100 mark on DXCC for 160 yet. I'm still at 82, but I have done it on all the other bands except for 660. QRP is only possible on the upper H bands. Well, I just disproved that with the last slide. So now, this is the thing you came here to hear, the ultimate secret for QRP tricks. So make sure you note everything on this slide thoroughly so that you'll be ready to go out and make all the contacts and beat me in every contest possible. Can everyone see this slide okay? I want to make sure that everyone gets this very important information. Well, sorry, if I shared all that information on that slide, you would beat me out of, for every new DX station, outscore me in all contests. So if I tell you I would need to kill you.
Where did you see this?
That's classified.
It's what?
It's classified? I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Lieutenant, where did you see this?
But I will give you more information, don't worry. So how can I learn all this? Imitate successful QRP operators. That's one of the best things you can do. You can read about it, you can watch videos, etc., but watch what happens when a good QRP operator operates. Listen to some of the traits they do and follow those. So let's go through and talk about individual categories and individual ways to improve your odds for QRP success. Now, the thing I'm going to tell you is if you decide you don't want to operate QRP, these things are going to work wonders at higher power also. So the first one we're going to focus on is equipment. There's lots of good choices for QRP radios, but most important part of the radio equipment is learning how to use all of its features efficiently and effectively, especially the following: tuning in signals, zero beating, moving quickly to a new band, mode, or frequency to catch that rare one, being able to operate split. This is very important for working DX. Using both the RIT and the transmit, but using one or the other, the RIT or the XRIT, to slightly adjust your signal and make sure the other station is hearing you. Using filtering with switch, shift, and notch capabilities. And using the radio's menuing system to easily, quickly make changes. Another thing that I find very helpful is interfacing your radio and computer provide more flexibility, efficiency, and modes of operations. So once you interface that radio, you can start working on things like FT8 and FT4. You can very easily record your information from your radio into your log. So it takes that whole part out of the picture. It makes it much easier. So this interfacing allows logging contacts more efficiently. It allows quick radio changes directly from the keyboard. The use of macros to send call signs, exchanges, etc. via CW or recorded voice memories. Additional modes such as digital sound card modes, RTTY, FT8, FT4, PSK are all possible once you do this interfacing. With some radios, you can also interface small keypads. These small keypads can do things such as send memories from the radio, and I have a small keypad here to give you an idea. This is something you could hook up to many radios. This is hooked up to a Yaesu FTDX 100, 10, and that allows you to send the memories very easily. I'll have more information on equipment after we're done. I have a whole addendum that I'm not going to be able to go through, but you can go through later for individual radio information. The next category I want to focus on is antennas. Now, unfortunately, we could spend the rest of today talking about antennas and still not get all the way through. But let me just suffice it to say that probably there's no other station element that can greatly affect QRP success than the antenna you have. A good antenna can make the difference between making the contact and not making a contact. A gain antenna means that the total ERP, effective rated power, is much greater. So by having a gain antenna, it's like having an amplifier but without having an amplifier. Feed lines are a critical part of any antenna system. You don't want to lose any of that valuable QRP power before it even gets to the antenna. One of the things that a lot of people tend to do is when they're working with small radios, they want small antennas. So they go to severe compromised antennas. They can be very attractive due to their size, portability, sometimes cost, multiple band coverage, etc. But remember, there is no free lunch. Often a simple but well installed antenna will outperform expensive gimmicks. A simple dipole antenna or end-fed antenna can often beat the most fabulous advertised gimmick antenna. Choosing certain operating conditions can make a big difference. Let's first look at choosing your band to operate on. I mentioned earlier, choosing the highest frequency band that is open is often one of the keys to success with QRP. The higher the frequency, the less absorption by the D layer and the more of your signal that gets out. Also, on higher frequencies, it greatly affects your antenna's efficiency for long distance communication. A dipole on 160 meters at 40 feet is going to shoot your signal straight up in the air and straight back down again. Not very effective for long distance communication. But a dipole at 40 feet for 20 meters is going to be very effective and have a much lower takeoff angle and be much better for DX. Just remember, the gods of propagation don't sleep. They're always there. The D layer is always there to grab any of your available RF, especially during the daytime on the lower bands. The E-skip layer can bring sporadic E-skip and excitement on 6 meters, but the F layer, the refractor of RF around the planet, is your friend for getting around the world communication. And don't forget, there's always Moley, the hoarder, waiting to create ground loss for every bounce of your signal. Choosing the best bands. Use the best possible antennas and feed line for the situation. Develop good operating techniques. Understand your radio and be persistent. This slide sort of jumped in there. That slide's not supposed to be there. Never mind that. Back to bands. The great news is with the increased solar activity, 10-meter propagation is peaking, and it's been a great band. So get on 10, start your QRP journey on 10, and do it quickly before the solar cycle starts to drop again. The next choosing I want to do is talk about time and events. When you choose to operate can make a big difference in your success. Choosing a time for better chances of QSOs. First of all, following band openings in daily, seasonal, and solar cycles can make a big difference. So get on 10 meters now. Don't wait to do that. Also, on the low bands, they can greatly benefit from gray line propagation, which occurs as sunset and sunrise occur in your location. So don't forget about these as beneficial situations for operating QRP. Also, choose chimes with greater band activity. The weekends, contests, special events. What does more band activity means? More chances of contacts. How many contacts do you make on field day compared to a random Tuesday? A lot more, because there's a lot more people on the other end to contact. Choose a time for better chances for the QSO to specific locations. Follow the band openings and daily cycles. From night to day, the bands shift, with night favoring 160, 80, and 60. The middle between the two is 40, 30, and 20, which sort of function any time of day, and during the daytime, 17 through 10. Openings generally start in the east and move towards the west as day and night progress. And don't forget about specialized propagation such as gray line, transequatorial, auroral, and more. Another thing to choose is the modes of operation that you want to operate. My suggestion is that you don't focus just on one mode, that you become flexible and able to work any mode. This gives you the best chance of working new DX and more stations. Being flexible to work any mode doesn't limit your operating to one mode only. Some modes are more effective with lower signal levels. CW is a proven winner with QRP. If you do not know Morse code, you can learn enough to make simple DX or contacts, even if you're not able to sit there and rag chew for hours while you're drinking a cup of coffee and doing something else. You need to simply be able to concentrate to get the call side of the other station and make sure they get your information. There's more information on that later. Digital sound card modes such as FT8 and FT4 should not be ignored. They are very effective at low power levels. Even though it is not as effective, having RTTY capability can often snag a new DX contact when other modes are crowded. Sometimes during a major DXpedition, everyone will run to 20 meters and be operating phone, or they'll be operating CW on a band, and there'll be a station operating RTTY and almost no one will be there. So grab a contact by being available to work any mode. If you want to get started with CW, you don't need to be an expert to make CW contacts. I have a whole presentation called Fun with Morse. If you're not a CW operator and interested in getting started, I'll mention two things from this presentation, but I suggest you look at the whole thing for more information. But two great organizations out there that teach beginners Morse code, and that is the Long Island CW Club and the CW Ops Academy. If you're interested in FT8 and FT4 and just getting started, I have a whole slideshow presentation on that. Another thing that can help is operating techniques. Try to always use the best operating techniques possible with QRP power. You do not have as much margin for error as QRO. If you want to be successful making QRP QSOs, you need to use good techniques. These are not techniques for amateur radio, but this is an example of the type of things that are important for air communication, but a lot of them also apply to amateur radio. Listening first, planning ahead, knowing what you're going to say, using proper techniques, waiting before repeating information, and etc., etc. To add QRP to your call sign or not, that is the question. And personally, I almost never do. It slows things down. The extra bit of information can cause confusion or busted calls when a station is having a hard time copying your call sign. Some stations will assume that they will not be able to work you because you are QRP, so that you will be too weak, so they just ignore you. So if you want to have people ignore you, add QRP to your call sign. If you want to confuse people when they're trying to copy you, add QRP to your call sign. And unfortunately, there's a group of people who don't like QRP. They resent it so much that they won't even work you at all. So you're only hampering yourself. Especially avoid it during contests where the speed of making contacts is at a premium. To quote a CQing DX station, in most cases sending /QRP just makes more unnecessary noise in the follow-up. If I can hear you, I will work you. If your signal is weak and I'm working to letter mine, the call signs, the letters of your call sign out of the noise, then adding anything except your call sign is bad for both of us. I don't give any special attention to those yelling QRP. There are some exceptions though. If the calling station asks for QRP stations, feel free to add QRP to your call sign and when you're answering them. When looking for a two-way QRP contact or calling on a QRP frequency, it's perfectly fine to call and add QRP to your call sign when you're looking for specifically another station to work you on QRP. If a contest provides extra points for working QRP stations, you might want to add it at that time because then you are an attractive multiplier. Let's talk a little bit about calling CQ or choosing to hunt and pounce. It's often unproductive or inefficient to call CQ when operating QRP. It's hard to get stations to hear you when they are casually tuning the band. During crowded band conditions, especially during contests, it's often very difficult to hold a frequency and to continue to call without someone stepping on you. But there are times when it can be productive, so don't rule out CQing. If you are a rare or semi-rare DX station, feel free to call CQ, and I'm sure people will move away and let you work in peace. If you are rare or semi-rare multiplier in a contest, please feel free to call CQ. If a band is open and no one else is calling, please call CQ. Also, during the last couple hours of a contest, not the last crazy half an hour, but the last 2.5 hours before the contest ends, a lot of people are been working the contest the whole time, and a lot of stations are dupes for stations. So you become fresh meat. So when people hear a new call sign, they will listen more than when you're just calling CQ at the beginning of the contest. One of the other times it's a good idea to call CQ is during medium density conditions. What I mean by this is there's not too many stations calling, so you have a spot to hold a frequency and call CQ, but yet there's enough stations there that people will easily find you. So I could go on a band right now. If I went on 160 right now, the band's pretty dead. I could sit there and call CQ and I'd have a frequency all to myself. The problem is there'd be no one there to hear me. So it's sort of like when a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? Well, you need to have enough stations there, but if there's too many stations, you won't be able to squeeze your signal in edgewise. So medium density is your friend. Now, sometimes you can find medium density even in a very busy contest by going to the top of the mode segment for that band. Quite often, as you move up and up the band, especially in CW, things will get a little sparser. Now, on large bands like 10 meters, there's a lot of space to spread out. So even during a phone contest on 10 meters, it'll spread for over 2 megahertz of distance. So there is spots where you can call CQ. But calling CQ on 40-meter phone during a busy contest, very difficult, not much space to do it. When answering a CQ, what frequency should you reply on? Well, there is no one right answer, so I'm going to tell you a couple things to try, and quite often you'll end up trying all of them during one contact when you're trying to be successful. The first place I'd start is by zero beating the station. In other words, answer on the same frequency as they're calling. The next thing to try, if that is not successful, is slightly above or below the caller's frequency so that your signal stands out. Probably the most important place to call is the frequency where the last station that was replied to by the CQ station, in other words, the last successful station, was transmitting. Not where the caller is transmitting, but where the successful replier was transmitting. So maybe the station is listening to people slightly above or slightly below. By choosing the frequency that the last person that was successful was transmitting on, that gives you a good chance, especially if the calling station was using the RIT to adjust their frequency slightly to hear different spots. You'll be right in the right spot. The next place to call is split. Now this is when you're directed by the CQing station. A station on CW may say up 1, or on phone up 5 to 10, or up 10 to 15, or whatever they choose. Try to zero beat the last successful replying station in the split frequency range. So if you can hear the station that's being worked by the calling station, try and choose that frequency to give your reply. But many stations that are calling CQ tend to tune up and down through that split frequency range. So they might be moving up the band. So in that case, you want to choose the last successful operator and call just above that frequency, anticipating where the DX station is going to be moving to. Or if they're moving down the band, slightly below. The other option in split operation is to find an empty spot in the split range and stay there, assuming that the DX station will eventually come to your open spot and no one will be covering you up. By the way, that's the trick to do on FT8 and FT4 all the time, not just during split operations, but always find an empty spot. How do you find stations to work? Well, Take advantage of spotting networks, DX clusters, the reverse beacon network, PSK reporter. These will all tell you what stations are on, and the reverse beacon network and the PSK reporter can also tell how well other stations are hearing you and where they're hearing you at. This will also let you know the last station that was the successful. Oops, got extra stuff on that slide. It shouldn't be there. When answering a CQ, how do I time my response? This should be the statement. It's like merging onto the highway. Timing and speed is critical. You want to be going at the right speed. You want to do it at just the right time. I have a whole presentation available called How to Make That QSO, Get in the Rhythm, Know the Rhyme, and Dance the Dance. And it talks about techniques such as timing and breaking through pileups, etc. When you're answering a CQ, make it as easy as possible on the calling station. On single sideband, use standard NATO ITU phonetics. That cute phonetic that you use on the local repeater, it's going to be very confusing for a DX station. And I've seen this happen before. I've seen someone take a long time, even with high power, to work a DX station when they're giving phonetics that the station doesn't understand. So stick with standard NATO phonetics. Now have at least one well thought through option for each standard phonetic in your call for situations of confusion. For example, my call is Kilo 8 Zulu Tango. If someone keeps coming back to me and saying, "Would that zero station go ahead, please?" and I know there's no zero station calling, I know they're busting my Zulu for a zero. So saying Zulu over and over again is just going to add to the confusion. So I'll switch to my alternate phonetic, Kilo 8 Zanzibar Tango. If they're having trouble with the T, Kilowatt 8 Zulu Tokyo. So have a secondary phonetic in case the station gets stuck on the first phonetic. Speak clearly, match the pace of the calling station. If they're doing it very quickly, answer quickly. If they're doing it slowly, answer slowly. Repeat info only when requested. Don't always give your call sign twice just because you can. Only give it when it's necessary twice. Use Q codes and abbreviations sparingly on single sideband. Don't go QRL when you're seeing if the frequency is in use. Just simply ask, is this frequency in use? On CW when you're replying, reply at the same speed as the calling station, or if you cannot copy that fast, reply at a speed that you're comfortable receiving at. Use proper spacing between characters and words. Avoid confusing language, such as idioms, jargon, etc. Use only standard abbreviations. I had this little chart. Can they copy me? Has the station successfully received you? If you're operating during a contest and you could get this information, all you basically need to do is be able to copy their call sign, be able to make sure you can copy your call sign when they reply to you, give the exchange, and make sure they got all the information. So if they did not receive you, they might send a question mark or question marks. They might go call with a question mark if they don't have your call sign, or again, or repeat. This is what they would send on CW. This is what they would say on phone. NR or number with a question means they missed something such as a serial number. Exchange, section, etc. They might have missed part of it. If they ask for a specific part, just give that part in your response. Don't give the whole exchange again. Before dupe means they think they've worked you. Check your log. If they really haven't worked you, say no, 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 and let them know that you haven't worked them and give the information. NIL, NIL on CW means that they're not in the log. They didn't work you, so don't bother to put it in your log. Later or sorry means please contact a little bit later. That doesn't mean 5 seconds. That means a couple minutes. And then if they got you, things like thank you, Roger, 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 R, QSL 73, okay, yes, or affirmative. And unfortunately, some people don't let you know anything. But simply if everything was going smoothly and they move on and start calling CQ, that means that they probably got everything. You cross your fingers and hope. On both CW and single sideband, If they did not get your call correctly, or they're not sure, what do? Give your correct call again twice. If they come back with your correct call in the form of a question, such as K8ABC, confirm it with a Roger or a QSL or an R on CW. Don't repeat your call. If they got it right and they ask you your call, saying it right, it will only confuse things if you give your call again. Simply confirm it. Don't repeat it. If they're still not getting your call, give just the part they're having problems with. If they're still not getting the call on single sideband, switch to your alternative phonetics. Let's talk about some more tips for operating. So before we do that, let's talk about, okay, Anthony, this QRP sounds pretty good. What do I need to do to get started? Get on the HF bands if you're not already. Try tuning down your current rig's output power, or pick up or borrow a QRP radio. Check out the top 15 tips which are coming up on the next slides. Make some QRP contacts. Use additional resources to learn. Join a QRP club. Make more contacts and have fun. So let's look at some of these tips here. These are not necessary in order of importance. 15 tips, although the 15th one is the most important, but the rest of them are not in any order. Use the best possible antenna and feed line for the situation. Develop good operating techniques. Operate during contest and high volume activities. Understand your radio, know how to use its features including filtering, split operation, memories, transmit, audio tailoring, etc. Be persistent. You probably will not be the first to break every power-up. I can almost guarantee that. When it happens, you'll be so surprised. But with good technique, it is possible. So be persistent and be comfortable with maybe being the 5th or 6th station worked as opposed to the 1st station. Learn to be a skillful hunter and pouncer, but don't be afraid to call CQ at strategic times. What can you do to be a good hunter and pouncer? I find using something like N1MM's contesting logging software BandMap very useful. Even if I'm not getting spots from assisted, every time I hear a station and put them in the log, if I don't work them and tune away to another frequency, that call sign will be saved there for a while so I can easily go back to it. In the olden days, I used to use a legal pad and I would simply write the stations top to bottom on the frequency so I could easily go back, because being patient means sometimes waiting and coming back and trying later when the station isn't as busy. So being a good hunter and pouncer also includes figuring out when you're going to come back and try that station again. Also, sometimes what will happen is when you're hunting and pouncing, you'll be hunting and pouncing in a herd. And what happens when you're hunting and pouncing in a herd? That means when you finish one station and move to the next one, the same competition that was there for the first station is going to be ahead of you in line again. So sometimes you want to jump ahead and get ahead of the herd, move up to the next station beyond that, or move down and go in the opposite direction. So sometimes getting stuck in the herd can be very detrimental to getting through, because you're competing with the same people one by one by one. Be there at near the end of contest as fresh meat. Don't append QRP to your call sign, especially in polyps and contest. Learn about and understand propagation and current band conditions. Use the highest frequency band that is open. Operate on as many bands as possible, especially the lesser used bands such as 30, 17, and 12. Operate in multiple modes. Each mode you operate increases your chances. If you don't currently operate CW, learn at least enough to make simple DX or contest contacts. If you haven't tried FT8, FT4, you're missing a great weak signal mode. And most important, number 15, get on the air and operate as often as possible. That 117,000 QSOs, that's because I've been doing this for 40 years and I try and do it often. That 328 DXCC is because I was in the right place at the right time. So getting on the air and operating is very important. Some other additional tips: listen, listen, listen. Listen to good operators, listen to bad operators, and learn from listening to both. Listen so you can find a station before they're posted on the DX cluster. Think about it for a second. If you're going to be hunting and pouncing and you find fresh targets before anyone else does, that gives you a great opportunity. Sometimes I've caught someone just in time when they've came on the band or came back from a break, worked them quickly, and then heard the horde descend upon them, knowing that I'd have no chance at all as a QRP operator and even as a QRO operator to work them. Understand the timing, rhythm, rhyme, and dance of QSOs. Know procedures, standard operating procedures that are typically used, but also possible ways in which a particular station operator contest exchange works. Every station that's calling CQ is going to work people slightly differently, so you want to understand how they're doing it. Do they always work the first station they hear? Do they always work the last station? Do they work the station that's giving their call twice? Do they never work the station that's giving their call twice? Do they want part of the call? Do they want the whole call? Find out what they want and give them exactly what they want. Again, you always want to make it as easy as possible for the station to answer you. Create templates of QSOs with operator and station information. I've been doing this for 40 years, but right here on my desk is all my station information. In that heat of that QSO, I might forget something, so I can simply look there and get all my information, such as my 1010 number or my GQRP number, or etc., etc. This link will take you out to a document where you can create your own copy and create your own desk reference of your information. Two slideshows you might want to take a look at. One is called Success for Operating, Tools for Assessing Performance. This goes through a lot of information on how you can see whether you're getting out even if people aren't answering you. And as a QRP station, that's important to know. It might not be your station, it might just be the competition out there. So you want to know whether you're getting out or not. And then another one is called Top Secret Techniques to Work All States and DXCC. I keep mentioning contesting, but if you're not already a contester, I want to let you know that contests are a great complement to your QRP activity. You don't have to be interested in the competition of the contest. Just think of contest as a lot of people that really want to work you and are highly motivated to work you. For some reason, my QRP seems to be much more effective when the other station gets extra points for working me, or even gets any points for working me. So all of a sudden, my station during a contest is much louder to the other station than during a casual afternoon on the air. So if you're new to contesting, I have a slideshow called I have a video of me doing a slideshow called an Introduction to Contesting that you can watch. The slideshow is available here. If you're an ARRL member, I designed a class a few years ago called Introduction to Amateur Radio Contesting. It's in the ARRL Learning Network, but you do need to be a member to access it. If you click on this contest notebook, you can get a preview of that class, because this is the handbook for that class. So this goes through what the class involves. It has 5 modules plus a CW contesting supplement, and it has information on each of these different areas. That you can access by clicking on the link right there. Also more on QRP contesting. A couple years ago I did a presentation at Contest University on the Thursday before Dayton Hamvention. You can go through the slideshow, or you can watch the video of me presenting the information from the slideshow. In addition to contest, you might also want to give QRP a try for awards. There's a number of awards that will mark your award as operating QRP. It's a way to revitalize your goals for awards you may have already met as a QRP operator. So I know a lot of people that say, oh, I've already gotten all the DX I'm ever going to get. But if you start again as a QRP operator, it gives you a chance to work all of it again. Another great way to work all your DX again, if you're already at a high number, is by participating in the annual CQ DX Marathon. This is a simple contest where you work as many DX stations as possible during the year on any band or mode. and as many of the 40 CQ zones as possible. It's a great thing because every January 1st, every country is a Rare DX country for me until I work them. I cannot stress how much QRP clubs around the world, both large and small, have contributed to the adoption and innovation of QRP operation. We owe an immense gratitude to the many individuals that have contributed to QRP and QRP clubs. Please take a look at the list of QRP clubs on the next page and consider joining one or more of them. There's a number of clubs. Probably the two biggest are the GQRP Club, an international group out of England, and the QRP ARC, an international group out of the United States. But there's a number of regional and state QRP clubs out there. These are all links that will take you out to any of them. Some additional resources. I have a web page with QRP links, just a few, not as many as many of my other pages, but QRP links. The second resource is from Tom Weatherspoon. It's a great blog that he does. It's called QRPer.com, and as you look down the side here, you'll find a bunch of different topics that he covers weekly. He has great videos and great resources. The one I've spotlighted is one called oh, it didn't get the one I thought it was going to. So let me click on another link here, and if I click on here, it's going to give me the one I wanted, I think. Yeah, nope. Here we go. This is the one that has the right link. It's a tutorial on how to call a CQ as a QRP station in single sideband and phone. So you might want to take a look at that. Click on this link right here. And there's an introduction to QRP slideshow. This is some of the material from this slideshow comes from this. This will talk about getting started with QRP and give you all the information about QRP in a lot more detail, not just techniques. Now, there's also an addendum coming up in a few seconds here, but I'm not going to go through the addendum completely, but you can go through it. And this is the addendum with a whirlwind tour of QRP radios and information on buying amateur radio equipment. So we've came to the question and answer portion of our talk today. So I'll be happy to take questions, comments, etc. But I want to make sure that you get this link, tiny.cc/QRP tips. That will get you access to all the links in the slideshow. You can also shoot the QR code. I'll keep that up on the screen for a few minutes. But before I do that, I want to go to a couple other slides just to show you where everything else is at. There is also a link after that at tiny.cc/K8ZT-P. That has links to all of my slideshows and many recordings of many of them on a wide variety of topics. I'd also like to invite you, if you're interested, contact me and I'd be happy to do a presentation for your local group. I've done over 500 presentations since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and I'd be happy to do one for your local club. After that is the addendum with a bunch of materials on both historical and current QRP radios. So I'm going to stop back here again, and I'd be happy to take questions and comments.
All right, thank you, Anthony. I do have a mic up here to facilitate the booming audio that's coming from next door. Mitch has got his soundboard with his speakers set up over there, so I don't know if it's because he can't hear or because he wants to hear. Does anyone have any questions for Anthony? Or any comments? Any war stories?
All complaints go to Mitch, by the way. So I take questions and comments, but all complaints go to Mitch.
Oh, that goes without saying, absolutely.
Yes.
Mitch receives complaints very well. Or I should say very often. Well, the consensus in the rooms is that they appreciate the work that you put in and appreciate the presentation. And there's a lot of good information. And I think we have some diehard QRPers here in the audience.
Very good. Well, tell if anyone wants to mention any of their experience, anything they've learned that maybe I missed today.
Anybody have any QRP stories they'd like to tell? Sure.
Absolutely. It's generally me. Hi, I'm Art, WB2WFJ. I live down in Killington. I'm glad a couple things that you said about QRP operation. Mostly don't identify yourself as QRP. I've never understood. I listen to pile-ups. I listen to people on the air, and they're putting QRP at the end of their call. And I've never understood why they do that. My attitude has always been, that's your problem, not mine.
I agree on that, and I always like the fact that I want to get them in the log first, and then give them the bad news that I'm the weak station. That I'm a weak station. That way, they don't think they can't work me.
Yeah. The other comment. I've grown up in apartments, condominiums, and only recently, the last 10, 15 years, have I been able to put up anything outdoors of any decent quality. And learning how to operate in pile-ups against folks that are running a KW and 6-element beams and all that. A lot of your QRP techniques for getting through pile-ups, moving around, following the last station, those are all applicable to any type of station, not just QRP. I finally got the Marshall Islands operator last night just by doing that, just following the last station.
I got him during the RIDI contest last week. So I got him again on another during the other contest this week. So yes, it's always great when they come back.
I'm always surprised.
Yes.
And also, just a shameless plug, there is a very lightly used FT818 for sale over in the flea market. I'm not affiliated with the person who's selling it. It's me. I'm the one selling it. But it's fully tested, and it's a really nice rig. So if you're interested, there's a price on it, but I'm willing to dick her also. So shameless plug.
I'm going to run real quick through the addendum. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because I know we only have a minute or so, but this is just what's there. There's a bunch of information on the early Tentecs, which are really the historical things. This was, by the way, was my first radio, an Argonaut 515. I still have it. I still use it occasionally, and I have a whole presentation called the Odyssey of the Argonaut. So if you're a Tentec person, you're going to want to see this presentation right here, and there's also a video of it. HW8. Again, one of the stalwarts of CW only radios, a bunch of projects, clubs just came up with these fabulous products that eventually some of the club designers turned out to be people like Wayne Burdick, who developed the Elecraft. Some information on the Elecraft radios. By the way, my main radio is a K3S in the shack here, and I also have a KX2 and a KX3 that I use in the field. This is my Go box. This works well for any radio this type of style. It works for the KX2, KX3, but it also works for the ICOM 705. The Zygoos all fit in this type of setup, and I have a whole bunch of information on creating your own rapid deploy kit. Simply flip the lid down, top up, and operate. The antenna connects right to the side of it. Some more information on the QRP Labs kit radios. Opened micro SDX, and then the fancy radios like the 705, the 818, the Zygu radios, and still to come out supposedly this month. We only have a couple days left this month for the Yaesu FTX1. I have a whole bunch of information on buying amateur radio equipment and also a spreadsheet of different HF radios, including QRP radios. So take a look at that information, and I will stop sharing.
All right. Well, thank you, Anthony. Always a pleasure, and probably the best-looking slideshow that I've seen in a long time.
Well,
I really like your layout.
I'm going to go back and fix all my grammatical errors that I found that I know that as I was adding things quickly again this morning. So, and if N1UR is there today, I worked them on 160 last night for the first contact in the 160 single sideband contest. So that was my only Vermont yet so far in that contest this week. So
Oh, very good.
7-3 everyone. Hope to work you on there. Hope to work you on there, QRP.
Thank you very much. 7-3, Anthony.